So just briefly, I'll talk about my experience of like upper limb injuries. Obviously, I I've got a palsy, so in the shoulder, so a major injury of the upper body. I've had elbow issues, tendonitis in the past. I've never actually had a wrist injury, to be fair, and I would say that that would probably be the most annoying to have, just because it would affect you a lot more in daily life as well. But from my experience only, having the upper body injury only is a lot easier to deal with. You might not be able to weight lift, but you wouldn't if you had a back or a lower limb injury anyway. And sorry, you can still squat. So you could do a safety bar squat, for example, or whatever kind of contraption, a belt squat maybe even. And for me, that feeling of that kind of feeling of I've pushed myself to my max in a session, and that kind of I don't know how to describe it other than it's when you push yourself to the max, it makes you feel a certain way. That kind of accomplishment, that kind of achievement. I don't really get it with single joint exercises. I only really get it with big exercises that I can really push. So, for example, having still being able to squat still gives me that kind of mental, I guess, that kind of mental break of not being able to push. So being able to push, release the endorphins and you can have a good time with it. I would say, similar to the having a lower limb injury, you can still train the other side. So you can still get that neural cross training where if you train the healthy side, it still benefits the injured side to some level or on a neural level. And you can still make do, training your legs and training your trunk as well as the other arm. So I would say it's probably similar to the lower limb, like probably more predictable than like disc issues, for example. If you have, let's say, a shoulder fracture, you know pretty much how long it's going to take, and if you follow the rehab, like it probably will take that long, based on science's understanding of physiology. For example, it might be 6 months, say, and if as long as you don't do anything stupid and you follow the rehab, it probably will be 6 months. It won't be much longer. It might even be quicker. So it's a lot more, I think, easier to deal with in that sense. Now, the only thing that is annoying with it is obviously the weightlifting side is so overhead heavy that that might take a massive hit. Obviously, if you were, especially with something like a wrist, maybe, I guess it might be mentally quite tough if every part of you feels fantastic except your wrist, but that still limits you doing snatch and clean and jerk. So I guess that would be annoying as well. Like I said, I haven't had a wrist injury, but my experience has been a lot better with the upper body injuries. I would say for all injuries, it's very useful not to think about a comeback, not to think about making a comeback, but just think about the training block you're in, and just think about it as training, and a training cycle. If you keep thinking about things as a comeback, it gets a bit depressing. It gets a bit like, why me? Why do I have to keep making the comebacks? Why can't I just train? Think about it like training. Think about it like, okay, this is training now. This is what I can work on, you know, and I can still push myself. It doesn't have to be a comeback. And that's a bit of a mental trick that's helped me a lot recently with this recent hip injury, that another lifter told me, who also just had surgery. And it's an easier way to kind of deal with the current situation, I think. Make a plan, stick to your rehab, and just and look after your mental health. I think is the big thing with any injury, especially not just upper body. But yeah, that's in terms of the upper body stuff for me. It was mostly shoulder related, and it's very much caused by posture for me. So it was always just the more kind of rear delt stuff I did, the better it got. The more kind of mid back stuff I did, the better it got. The more mobile my chest and my shoulders were, the better. And back bends, for example, were a massive contributing factor to me not having dislocated my shoulder for a long time now, 5 years or so. Since I started doing them, my overhead stability just got so much better, as well as the thoracic mobility. So, a few tips there, and that's, yeah, if any questions, let me know, as always.